How did this cult classic go viral after 14 years? Studio Trigger's new sequel to Panty and Stocking came out of nowhere, but it's been one of the most talked about shows for weeks, and it's because new Panty and Stocking captures all of the dumb, dirty jokes from the 2011 original, but also shows off everything Trigger has improved on, like gorgeous animation and incredible writing. At the same time, the show isn't exactly perfect, and even caught some heat with a couple of episodes. So, you are probably wondering if new Panty and Stocking lives up to the hype, and whether it's actually worth watching. That's why in this video, I'm gonna review Panty and Stocking's new season, discuss how it captures the original charm of the show while highlighting Studio Trigger's modern talent, and explain why it's the perfect example of how to make a sequel. Just be warned that there will be some spoilers. But since I brought it up, let's talk about the one thing any perfect sequel needs, namely the charm of the original. It's common sense that if you remake something, then you need to make old fans happy, and new Panty and Stocking does this brilliantly. Some people, including myself, were a bit worried that Trigger would be inclined to tame down the show's typical sense of humor, especially now in 2025. Thankfully, Trigger gives the finger to being sensitive and picks up where the show left off in 2011. First, it answers the lingering questions fans had about the original show's bizarre cliffhanger. In the process, it delivers one of the most obscene first episodes I've ever seen. I can't really describe it without getting demonetized, but needless to say, Trigger resolves any concerns about watering down the humor as soon as the show starts. In fact, the new season is pretty much just as raunchy as the original. One episode features Panty playing a weird alternate version of Magic the Gathering, where all the monsters are really just creepy uncles. Another episode shows the girls falling into the trap of posting scandalous Instagram photos. And unsurprisingly, there's even an episode about a used tissue. Clearly, Trigger had no issue implementing the same dumb humor that fans loved about the original, but that's not the only thing that returned. In addition to all of the sex and poop jokes, the Demon Sisters' scanty and knee socks make a return. This time, instead of being the incompetent bad guys they were before, now they're part of the main cast and get more screen time than ever. In addition, there's tons of pop culture references like in the original, something that adds to the fun of the show by delivering crude parodies of movies like Pitch Perfect, The Longest Yard, and La La Land. They even referenced a YouTube show they produced back in 2012. Although truthfully, these particular episodes went right over my head since I had never even heard of this show. And this actually brings up one of the problems with this season. The fact that the episodes are kind of hit or miss. To be fair, this was a problem with the original show too, but especially with the sequel, you have a kind of whiplash where you get a run of 3 great episodes, then you get an okay episode with Stocking and Scanty that besides its character focus, just wasn't that interesting. Then the hilarious Instagram episode, then the tissue episode, which was just plain stupid, then 3 amazing episodes, then 3 okay episodes. The cause of this inconsistency is that Trigger's approach to each episode is a double-edged sword. They make each episode so that it's completely different from all of the other ones, meaning that every episode feels unique. But on the other hand, this also means that certain episodes suffer because they lack the same boldness or creativity of the stronger episodes. But like I said, this isn't a new problem since the old show took the same approach. Every episode was a bit different, but while some episodes clearly stood out like the Dothan City Rock episode or the Nothing to Room episode, other episodes rely on shock value for the entire premise and just aren't as appealing. And this is where we actually get into the big problem every sequel faces: capturing the charm of the original while also appealing to different kinds of fans. Because to get new fans, you have to reach beyond the original audience. And that means taking an honest look at the flaws that originally turned people away. In the case of Panty and Stocking, this was the writing. The first season is great because it offers fun characters and bizarre and artistically creative episodes that are full of that unique personality that you only get from Gainax and Trigger. But because it was only ever meant to be a silly show, they never really bothered to really dive into these characters or give them obstacles that push them to grow. Thankfully, there is plenty of this in the new season, and it makes it completely stand out from the original. Actually, we even get some brand new characters that only make the show better. The Angel Brothers are a welcome addition that, while not as iconic as Panty and Stocking or the Demon Sisters, do get plenty of time dedicated to exploring their characters. We also meet the Gunsmith bitch, who turned out to be a fan favorite, as not only is she clearly meant to be some kind of new mascot for Trigger, but she's also a brilliantly fun character that will randomly show up and give Panty and Stocking all kinds of OP guns and weapons. But what makes this season stand out so much is the incredible writing that goes into fleshing out the original characters. The dojo episode, while not my favorite, does do a decent job of exploring Stocking's feelings as a younger sister and Scanty's maturity as an older sister. Pet Cemetery Hills was an instant fan favorite, as it featured Panty falling in love with a stray cat and showing a moment of true vulnerability when the cat disappears. The viral La La Land parody, while criticized for its apparent stupidity, actually manages to give some substance to Panty's constant swearing and portrays it as an act of crude self-expression. Then there's the notorious birthday episode that, besides the weirdly random line about Nisok's age, clearly stands out as one of the better written episodes. Not only does it parallel the dojo episode, but it fleshes out the fan favorite Demon Sisters who had never really gotten the character depth they deserved, gives Nisok's the chance to stand out as her own character rather than just the other Demon Sister, and even gives us another rare moment of Panty being selfless and protecting. The original show was fun because it had the dumb humor and it made each episode fun. But while it had great characters, the show never gave these characters the writing they deserve. New Panty and Stocking is clear proof that ever since Cyberpunk Edgerunners, Trigger's writing has finally gotten better. In the past, it was kind of hit or miss, especially with shows like BNA. But the way Trigger retains the silly episodic structure of Panty and Stocking while developing these characters at the same time demonstrates a level of writing that is clearly much better than ever before. And of course, when we're talking about Studio Trigger, it's only natural that we talk about the gorgeous animation. Trigger may be a lot of things, but one thing everyone knows them for is their unique style of animation. It's what made Gurren Lagann so good, it's what made Kill la Kill so good even as they experimented with 3D animation, and it's even what made a show like BNA stand out despite its underwhelming writing. But ever since BNA and the start of 2020, Trigger's animation has somehow gotten even better with shows like Cyberpunk, Dungeon Meshi, and that Transformers special they did. Okay, that one wasn't that special, but it was really cool and only convinced me we need a Studio Trigger Transformers anime expeditiously. My point is that Trigger's animation has only gotten better over the years, and while the original Panty and Stocking is very creative, it's also a bit dated after 14 years. The new show looks even better and it's even more creative, with one episode even entirely drawn in Jack Kirby style, another Conan the Barbarian episode made to look like an old 80s anime, not to mention all of the other incredibly well animated scenes in every episode. And this is what really makes new Panty and Stocking surprisingly better than the original. It may not be as shocking or vulgar as the first season, but this second season gives the characters we love the spotlight they desperately deserved, and it has the added benefit of modern animation and creativity that proves Studio Trigger is still one of the best studios in the industry. But that just leaves one question. Considering all of the flaws this season has, and all of the great stuff we just talked about, is it actually worth watching? Is it worth watching a sequel to a 14-year-old show, or even watching the original season if you're still a new fan? And the answer is undoubtedly yes. I have my own take about where new Panty and Stocking stands next to the original, but we'll get to that in a second. But as far as whether this show is worth getting into, I cannot recommend it enough. Admittedly, if you don't like the crude humor, then the show just isn't for you. Even with it being dialed down a bit in the new season, if that stuff isn't for you, then this just isn't the kind of show for you. But if you do like that stuff, then I cannot recommend this show enough. It's why I praised the first season in my previous video, and it's why I had to make a new video as soon as this season ended. As someone who just got into the show, I love the characters and I love the bizarre stories and animation, and that only gets better in the new season. If you want to see great characters and you love the unique style of Studio Trigger, the new Panty and Stocking is a must-watch. But speaking of characters, this is also where I have to critique the show. Just like episodes can be hit or miss, Trigger also gives some characters more love than others. In particular, I wish they had done more with Stocking. She gets plenty of screen time, and episodes like The Worst Ever Dojo and The Plush add a bit of depth, but she doesn't get nearly as much spotlight as Panty or even the Demon Sisters, and it can make her feel like more of a sidekick. This isn't to say her writing is bad. In fact, it fleshes out a character people have loved ever since the original, but I can't help feeling like Trigger purposefully avoided exploring her character to the same level they did with Panty. In terms of the new characters, while I think Gunsmith Bitch is a fun addition as a side character, I don't think the Angel Brothers are quite as charming as when we met the Demon Sisters. They did lead to one of the season's best episodes in their introduction, and they did help add some world building, but I couldn't help but feel like we never really knew that much about them personally. So much so that I personally struggled to remember which brother was which. And while we're on the topic of villains, I also feel conflicted about the ending. Overall, the ending is fun and it's really well animated. The new villain Raimi is okay, but he doesn't have quite the same charm as the previous villain Corset. And after watching the finale, I couldn't help but feel like his evil plan was actually kind of dumb and really wasn't that interesting. That being said, I didn't watch the finale for the plot. I watched it to see God and his wife turn out to be swingers, and watch all of the characters team up to save heaven and hell. Plus, just like they did before, Trigger left us with another exciting cliffhanger, and even teased another new season with even more new characters and a possible time skip. Which is why I'm more excited for Panty and Stocking than ever. So, is this new season perfect? Definitely not. But the original show was just as inconsistent, and if you start comparing everything to the original, you're just gonna lead yourself down a trap. Plus, if we're being honest, it's not like people really watch Panty and Stocking for the writing. That being said, the character writing is clearly better this season, and Trigger manages to show new love to old favorites in an unforgettable season. Add in the fact that this show is proof of how Trigger's animation only gets better and better, and it's no wonder why everyone was talking about Panty and Stocking this season. And that's why, despite its flaws, new Panty and Stocking is an obscenely good show that demonstrates how to write a perfect sequel.